Optimization. It's a term you hear a lot in VRChat, whether it be in regards to worlds or avatars. It will come up in conversation often during your time in this space. In general, there's two big categories that optimization falls under in this context. Optimization ranks, be that excellent, good, medium, poor, or very poor, where players need to hit a breakpoint for each ranking. Then there's actual optimizations for performance, such as minimizing overdraw, texture memory usage, FX layers, blend shapes, etc. There's a ton of great resources out there for optimization methods, and I recommend checking them out if you're interested. I've linked a few of my favorites below, if you want to learn more. However, that's not why I'm making this video. I'm here to talk not about the how of optimization, but more so the why of optimization. This will not be a guide or tutorial for optimization, but rather a discussion about the reasons we do it, what that means, and how respecting or disrespecting optimization as a social norm reflects on you as a person. As an anthropology major, I've always been fascinated by organic interactions between people of differing cultures. Within VRChat, there are a lot of different cultures ranging from all over the world, which are usually in communities who speak their language. Within each of these spheres, there are subcultures formed around different communities. A couple examples off the top of my head: public game worlds, private social groups, public social groups, world hopping, art, education, and event communities such as DJs, live music, and other large-scale events. Within each of these different subcultures, optimization expectations vary wildly from instance to instance. As an example, in a small private social group, everyone can safely use heavily unoptimized avatars with multiple features, as their group is maybe 5 to 10 people, and it's unlikely that it will heavily impact their experience. On the other hand, in a public setting or a large-scale event where you're in an instance with 40 to 80 players, sometimes more in rare instances, then optimization is significantly more important to the experiences of everyone involved. VRChat primarily being a social application, it's generally assumed that users come together with the intention of having the best social experience that they can. When everyone in the instance is using optimized avatars in an optimized world, then everyone gets to have a relatively equivalent experience. One of my personal early frustrations with VRChat was being seen not as my avatar, but as a fallback. I quickly realized that when I was using an unoptimized avatar, people were not seeing it anyway, and they were seeing me in a completely different way than I saw myself at the time. If you take the time to either use or make an optimized avatar, you're not only improving the experience of other players, but yourself as well. The same goes for worlds to a lesser degree. When you join a world, and it's 500 plus megabytes and lags your computer just by being there, then it's going to impact your experience more than the world being slightly less pretty is. Worlds using heavy use of real-time lights, overlapping alpha layers, grab pass shaders as a few examples, will generally look quite good for photos, because you only need one frame, but won't bring people back for frequent visits. This brings me to my main point. Optimization needs to match the intent of the experience. What do I mean by this? When you put it on an avatar or make a world, you're stating an intent whether you know it or not. For instance, if you're attending one of VRChat's many DJ events and you show up in a poor or better avatar, you're stating that you understand the rules of the engagement and are here to party. On the other hand, if you show up in a very poor, with 500,000 polygons, you're indicating, I don't care about the experiences of other players. Or, you very well may care, but are simply ignorant of how your avatar is impacting others, or even yourself. This is usually fixed pretty early on in a player's time in the game by someone who's already in the community saying, hey, can you please use a poor or better? You're lagging everybody. And an empathetic person will immediately understand the culture. This is a good time to bring up players who disregard this social norm and push back when asked to change avatars. First off, I do not believe most of these players do so inherently out of malice. Sure, every now and then you'll run into a 9-foot-tall jacked e-boy with 800,000 tries worth of max brightness chains who says, nah man, I won't change my avatar man, what are you talking about? And then proceeds to berate the staff and cause a scene, ultimately getting kicked. While this does happen, I believe even most of these players are mostly coming from a place of ignorance or a different culture. That being small group instances or public bar worlds, where the optimization restrictions are significantly more lax or even non-existent. In public culture or small groups, the norm of players uploading and editing their own avatars is much less common on average due to the high skill floor required. This leads to avatars with a consistent style, but having multiple outfits all in one, being widely used out of convenience. Think about when you first started, what sort of things you'd want as a new player. Number 1, an avatar that fits you. Number 2, multiple outfits for varying situations. Of the publicly accessible avatars, these are extremely common traits, leading to a lot of new players unwittingly using these unoptimized but feature-rich avatars. I initially didn't want to bring up the Booth versus Gumroad debate, but I do feel it is worth mentioning in this section. Gumroad has a notoriety for selling unoptimized avatars, whereas booth avatars are generally seen as being more optimized. This is not necessarily the case, but there is a reason for this assumption. The most common form of Gumroad avatar sale method is kit bashing avatars together from an open license base and as many features as they can fit and selling it as is. Creators have a sort of arms race of feature creep with kit bashing, and this results in extremely cool avatars that have a ton of fun effects and outfits all in one, but they are horrifically unoptimized. Someone well versed in Unity and Blender can easily separate these out into different, more optimized uploads, but the average player will not have this skill set. It already takes a lot of effort to download Unity and get everything uploaded. Most people just don't want to put the time into all this. Booth avatars are typically sold as a base, with outfits sold separately, and demand a bit more effort on the part of the player to add these and upload them. This creates an air of them being more optimized, but it's entirely circumstantial. Ultimately, I believe the Booth and Gumroad stereotypes are entirely products of their unique pipelines for creation. Gumroad starts off feature-rich and can be parted out with skill, so the path of least resistance is to upload it in its initial state. Booth avatars start off simple and can be made more elaborate with skill, so the path of least resistance is to upload it in its initial state. The reason is the same. Optimization takes effort, and the more effort required will naturally reduce the amount of people who will bother. This required effort is one of the driving forces behind a lot of the event cultures in VRChat, and why the cultures are so tight-knit. To attend, there is a not-so-subtle rule at most events to use a poor or better avatar. Players who abide by this norm are signaling to others, I want to be here, and I respect those around me. When you attend an event where there's 80 people all in one room for the same reason, all respecting the space they're in, it creates a feeling of belonging and safety which is unmatched even in a lot of real-life spaces. One last thing I wanted to touch on before bringing this to a close is that optimization ranks are not the end-all be-all of quality. They are a loose guideline for what's acceptable and provide some hard limits so that utterly unhinged 4GB avatars don't show up and crash everyone, and providing a general idea of the quality of an avatar. There's a lot of things that are not brought up by these, such as overdraw and subpixel polygons, which can cause catastrophic amounts of lag if implemented poorly, all without affecting the displayed performance rank. I wanted to shout out VRChat's Japanese community for having a really good understanding of what matters in these statistics. I've noticed in the times I spend in those instances that I can show the entire lobby of very poor rated avatars, but almost all of them have extremely low texture memory usage and are only slightly exceeding the rank limit and the poly count. I guess the main takeaway here is that optimization is a spectrum. The social expectations of different cultures in VRChat vary wildly, and what's seen as acceptable may change over time. In the short 3 years that I've been in this community, I've seen the Western VR club culture shift from a strict poor or better or you're kicked philosophy to a more lax, if the instance is busy and or lagging system, as features are added to VRChat to tailor your own experience with settings such as avatar culling. VRChat's own Straws describes this best in their essay, Conflict and the Scene. There is no norm enforcement by people, so how should they know? Reading vibes only works when there is a vibe. Avatar culling is not a catch-all fix, as useful as it is. We still have to improve ourselves culturally alongside these systems. In an ideal world, everybody's avatars can be shown at all times and people can see each other how they want to be seen, not culling nearby players. This is often not the case, however, and we have to make do with what we got. Meet in the middle. Compromise. But that doesn't mean we should just sit there. The community, us, has the power to make resources available to improve the knowledge void that exists in the greater VRChat community. There are already a lot of people out there making tools such as the Dark Player Avatar Optimizer, which trivializes a lot of the tedious tasks in a non-destructive manner on upload, as well as the modular avatar system and VRC Fury, making adding outfits and quick and easy toggles to your avatar significantly easier without ever touching Blender. Not to mention the wealth of written and YouTube tutorials out there. Optimization affects everyone, including you, and the best way to help everyone is to educate yourself and help spread the word. Not through preachy, ouch, oof, my frames complaints, but explaining why we optimized. Because we care about each other.